If data is the new oil, then the global south is being drilled dry without a single tax receipt. That is the reality of the digital economy today. A lot of money is being made, but none of this money is featuring as taxable income that revenue authorities in the global south can actually tap into. So at the House of Fiscal Wisdom, we have established a working group on finance and the digital economy. And our purpose is to host the discourse that is long overdue. How do we tap the untapped? The digital economy is generating unprecedented wealth, and we are leaving most of it on the table. Now, let me be direct about what we're dealing with. The digital economy has introduced new points in the value chain where taxation is either lacking or it is being contested. We've got these traditional tax rules that are built around physical goods and physical presence, and these rules cannot capture these points. So before we talk about solutions, we need to identify the problem precisely. And the problem is, where is value being created and where are we failing to tax it? Now, from a Global South perspective, there are 4 core issues that we must start confronting now. First, data extracted from the Global South is untaxed and it is uncompensated. African users generate huge volumes of data that train AI models and fuel advertising algorithms. Yet African governments see no fiscal benefit. This is data colonialism. User data helps tech firms refine products and target ads, create profits for them. But since data itself is not taxed or priced, it becomes an undervalued export from the Global South. You've got foreign firms that exploit our digital resources without really reinvesting locally. That has to stop. Second, is AI and automation are eroding our traditional tax base. Many of our economies rely on labor-intensive industries. Our tax structures depend on income tax, payroll levies, and consumption taxes from employed populations. If we're going to have robots and AI agents replace these jobs, income tax collections fall, social contributions shrink, and governments lose the fiscal capacity to redistribute wealth and fund services. We may need to shift the tax burden entirely, perhaps to an automation tax that captures productivity gains from AI. The third issue is that there is a mismatch between where digital services are consumed and where they are taxed. Services that are widely used in developing countries, think about social media, search engines, streaming, cloud software. These are all provided by companies that are based in the United States or even Europe. Now, a business in Kenya buys Facebook ads to reach a domestic audience. The payment goes to Facebook Ireland, and Kenya sees no corporate tax. Millions of African users generate advertising revenue for Google and Facebook, but the profits are booked abroad. The fourth issue is that multinational tax companies deliberately bypass our taxation through financial engineering. They exploit outdated definitions, and you know this, like permanent establishment. They use tax havens and treaty networks, and they take advantage of our weak enforcement capacity. There are so many investigation reports out there, one by The Elephant, which calls Africa a milking cow for Google and Facebook. Now, these firms, they funnel African earned revenue through Ireland and pay almost nothing locally. So what do? This is what at the House of Fiscal Wisdom we're thinking about, solutions after identifying what the core issues are. Now, we have identified the specific taxation points that we really need to think about and contemplate, and I'm going to give you a few examples. The first example is data monetization. This should be the first taxation point. Platforms collect user data and monetize it through targeted advertising and AI training. Then consumers pay for digital services with their data, yet this exchange is untaxed. There's a place in the United States called Maryland, and they have introduced a digital advertising tax for precisely this reason, to capture the value that users provide. So we should consider similar approaches. For example, data source apportionment rules that attribute part of a firm's profits to jurisdictions where user data is collected. My second solution is to think about generative AI. as the next frontier. When you have large language models that are trained on, say, for example, Togolese literature or Ugandan news articles, and then they are sold as a service globally. Togo and Uganda have no mechanism to tax the value extracted from their cultural and intellectual heritage. So I am proposing an AI training levy. Simply, companies should pay for the privilege of collecting and using our data for AI development. Portugal comes to mind because Portugal is developing its own Portuguese language model using national computing resources. So this is all about data sovereignty. We've got to take control of it. Without training levies, our cultural and linguistic data becomes an uncompensated resource extracted for commercial gain, and this we have to put a stop to. My third solution is to look at the digital labor platforms as another taxation point. Okay, you can think of platforms like Uber and Upwork. They take about 10 to 20% of every transaction. So under the current rules, this commission, it escapes taxation in the worker's jurisdiction. Another country comes to mind is Uruguay, because Uruguay now requires ride-sharing platforms to withhold income tax from drivers. And South Africa is exploring digital work permit frameworks. We need platforms to contribute to local fiscal systems when they achieve significant economic presence. And finally, we need to think about sovereign AI infrastructure. As AI becomes critical to economic competitiveness, countries that invest in their own AI systems can tax access and usage, right? This will allow us to retain value locally rather than watching it flow to multinational tech giants. I could go on. Cloud computing, e-commerce, commissions, subscription services, cryptocurrencies, algorithmic decision systems, the Internet of Things, cross-border telemedicine. Each of these digital business models and even digital services, they represent a node of value creation that escapes conventional tax regimes, right? So the point that I'm trying to make in this video is that the digital economy has immense potential for domestic resource mobilization, but we must first map where value is created before we can tax it. This is what we're going to be working on at the House of Fiscal Wisdom under our specific group on finance and the digital economy, because these are conversations that we really need to have at the global level. We need to first explore the issues and then we need to come up with the solutions. So do stay tuned.